Welcome to an ancient legend revealed amidst the cold northern mists. Close your eyes and let your soul follow the Siberian wind, where the trees whisper in a language forgotten by humans, where the blood moon once shone down on the silent land called Tunguska. The story you are about to hear is neither history nor myth. It is the truth sealed in time. In the silent darkness of that night, a throatless roar tore through the sky, the trees bowed as if to an invisible entity. But no one could find the crater. No one could explain it. Because it did not come to crash, it came to awaken. Are you ready to travel into the deepest layer of the Earth's memory? In the days when time flowed slowly like sap from birch bark, and the taiga covered half the northern sky, there was a cold, wild land, where the wind howled among the silent swamps and ancient trees stood guard over the sleeping earth. It was Tunguska, a land of mist, of fire and ice, and of mysteries that no human being could fathom. In the midst of that land, among the unnamed tributaries and the unmarked ravines, a roar rose from the sky. No one knew where it came from, but the sky suddenly became bright, brighter than dawn, brighter than life itself. The birds held their breath. The wolf raised its head and howled loudly, then quickly hid in the snow like a soul crawling into the darkness. On the top of a hill of gray stone, old Droska, the legendary guardian of the Evenki tribe, slowly opened his eyes. His opaque old pupils reflected an unusual blue light that swept across the sky like a fiery spear. He leaned on his deer bone cane, listening to the breathing of the earth. Then he spoke, not to anyone in particular, but as if to the sacred realm. It has come. The eye of heaven, the wanderer from the net of stars, has now fallen into our forest. And as his last words fell, a pillar of light shot through the sky like a spear of lightning. Trees burned, rivers shook, and a shapeless explosion hit the ground. There was no crater. There was no visible remnant. But for hundreds of miles around, trees were downed, burned, and animals lay dead, unharmed. In the night sky, a streak of light stretched, red as diluted blood, undiminished for days. In a small village on the edge of the forest, a young girl named Vera, a descendant of ancient shamans, dreams of a cracked door in the sky. She finds herself standing in a valley of charred tree trunks as if struck by lightning, and a formless entity calls to her in a whisper like the wind rustling through the pines. He who wakes beneath the earth never sleeps. He uses the fire of heaven to break the chains of the green forest roots. Vera woke up, her fur blanket soaked in sweat. She told her dream to her father, the onyx weaponsmith, but he just shook his head. My dream is the wind. This disaster is from the sky. We do not ask the sky why. But Vera knew, deep in her heart, that the dream was not a joke of the night. It was an invitation. A sign. A call from a world that does not belong to humans. 3 nights later, the moon, full as a shaman's drum, woke Vera from her sleep. A voice, deep, deep, and unfamiliar, spoke in her ear, "Go to the place where the trees have no roots, where the earth has no breath, where the light is so bright that it burns away the memories. There, the mystery awaits you." For some reason, her feet moved on their own. Through the dark forest, past streams that steamed like cursed pots, Vera entered the land of the dead. In its center, a flat, circular patch of forest, scorched grass, trees falling in a spiral like the mad dance of an angry god. And in the middle of it, a sphere of black matter, not reflecting light, hovered 2 handspans above the ground. Vera was not afraid. She did not tremble. She stepped forward, reached out and touched the object. The world disappeared. She found herself standing in a blazing void of stars. Surrounding her were shapes that no one could name, eyes without pupils, hands without joints, wings without bones, teeth without mouths. The creatures circled around a portal, huge, black, and slowly opening. From the portal, a thick smoke swirled around her like a demonic lullaby. Vera. You who carry the blood of the seal, I borrow your eyes to see this world. I borrow your hands to open the other door. And I borrow your name to rewrite history with fire. But Vera did not bow. The blood of the ancient magicians stirred in her. She called out in an ancient language, not of man, but of stone and time, I am the child of the forest, the snow, the ash. You shall not pass until you have passed through the gate of my blood. The gate shook, and the creature howled like a pack of hounds on leash. A white light shot from Vera's forehead. She collapsed. Everything disappeared again. When she awoke, the black sphere was gone. The sky was as quiet as if it had never roared. But the trees around her had sprouted new buds. The earth smelled of pollen. And the moon, strangely red as crimson, hung in the sky without setting. Droska, watching from afar, nodded, a spirit has spoken to an ancient god. A battle has stopped. But the mark will remain. After the night she touched the gate, Vera was no longer the same. Her eyes were deeper than the abyss, her voice seemed to echo from the ground. The villagers avoided her eyes, afraid that one look would be enough to see things they should not know. One night, when the snow fell like ashes from the sky, Vera walked out of the village, heading north, where the white deer did not dare to go and the moss had stopped growing. No one dared to stop her. No one dared to call. Only Droska watched her from the window sill, her hand tightening on the fox bone necklace. She walked for 3 days and 3 nights, without eating or sleeping. The wind clawed at her skin, but she did not tremble. At the end of the unnamed path, she came upon something that should not have been in this world, a pillar of black glass, growing from the heart of the earth and reaching up to the sky like the fingernails of a buried giant. Around it, the earth cracked and bubbled as if it were breathing. Rocks floated, trees grew with their roots up into the sky. A figure appeared beside the pillar. Not a man, not a ghost. It was Yaga, the guardian of the earth's memory, older than the river, older than the snow. Her eyes were 2 amber stones, glowing in the darkness, daughter of the fire of heaven. You have been chosen, or taken. The way back has evaporated. Only the way down. Vera knelt. She was not afraid. In her heart, the memory of the gate burned red. Yaga produced a mask made of reindeer bones and meteorite fragments. She said, "This is the face of one who has gazed into the heart of the sky. Wear it if you wish to see what mortal eyes cannot bear." Vera did not hesitate. The mask fit her perfectly, as if it had been carved from her own silhouette. As soon as she put it on, the world changed. There was no color, no sound. There was only a flickering light like the heartbeat of the universe, and memories that were not hers flooded into her mind. She saw the sky split, and from the crack, a beam of light flew through space for thousands of years, carrying the will of the Nameless One. Not a meteor. Not a shooting star. But a spirit, banished, locked, caught in the cosmic punishment, and Tunguska was just the place where the last chain broke. Vera took off her mask. She was shaking. Blood dripped from her nose, dripping to the ground, steaming like hot coals. But Yaga only nodded. Now you know. The man is not dead. He is just looking around. Then she turned away, and vanished into dust. Vera stood alone before the pillar, as the wind shifted and the ground shook. A voice whispered in her head, the voice of the thing, "You have opened your eyes. Now I open my hands." And from the earth, scorched roots began to rise. But they were not trees, they were memories incarnated. Lost dreams. Fragments of civilizations erased from history, finding their way back through the windows of her mind, in a place far away, where the scholars in their stone watchtowers dare not speak the name of Tunguska, the red moon does not set, and the North Star trembles. Unspoken knocks echo through the ancient sanctuaries. Something is stirring reality, and the gatekeepers begin to dream of fire. And in Tunguska, the trees had begun to speak. Vera heard them. They did not use words. They spoke with the vibrations in their cores, with the cracking of their bark, with the burning of their wood. They reminded her, the battle had only just begun, and she, whether she wanted it or not, was the spirit's third eye. When the trees began to speak, the forest fell silent. Vera lived among the blackened birch stumps like pillars struck by lightning, and every night a rustling like a whisper sounded around her, telling stories no one had ever taught her, stories of stone dynasties, of men with skeletal wings, of gates deep in the roots of the sky. In the wind she learned the language of broken time, where past, future, and present burned together like uncooled ashes. One day, as the red moon shone down on the scorched land, Vera saw a limping figure emerge from the edge of the forest. The figure was wrapped in a tattered cloak, and his eyes were covered with blood-stained bandages. He called himself the blind man from the moon. "I have seen too much," he said hoarsely, "so I choose not to see. Have you come to teach me or to stop me?" Vera asked, "Both," he replied, laughing like bones clinking together. The blind man told her of light veins, veins that ran through the planet, where ancient energy flowed like divine springs. When a vein was damaged, all life around it went mad. Tunguska was a junction, a knot of bone, and the explosion was the groan of the earth when its heart was pierced. Vera followed the blind man through the glassy ice, to a canyon called by an unpronounceable name, where the wind howled with the voices of children never born. There, beneath a layer of stone that resembled the jaws of death, they found the remains of a gate sealed with giant bones. "This is where he was banished," the blind man whispered, "and where your blood will decide his return." As Vera touched the gate, a slight earthquake coursed through her like a fever. In that moment, she saw another world, devastated, on fire, the sky turned upside down and things falling up instead of down. She saw giant spirits kneeling, some chained to light, some ensnared by mortal arrows. And among them, a being with 100 eyes, but all were closed, waiting for a glance to wake it. Vera collapsed. The blind man supported her, his hands as cold as marble. He whispered, "You are opening pages sealed with the blood of the ancients. There is no turning back." She asked, her voice hoarse, "And who am I, in all this?" He replied, "You are the unclosed eye. The stolen breath. The last one who remembers." That night, as they set up camp by the ravine, the moon began to melt. Drops of red light fell to the ground, turning into glass snakes, slithering around the campfire, whispering in a language no one had ever learned. The blind man immediately smeared the tent with ash, muttering, "They smell memory. And memory smells of blood." Vera sat still, her eyes not on the snake, but on the sky, where a small black hole had just opened its mouth among the stars, and from there, the sound began to flow down, like a broken bell played backwards, each tone breaking apart and fading into the ears of the living. It was not a voice, but a memory sent in sound, fragments of the old world falling into the present. The blind man held his head, screaming, "He's using your brain as a relay station." Vera chuckled. "Not mine. It's his own, reflected in me." On the other side of the world, an ancient temple beneath the rock begins to crack. Priests who have been silent for thousands of years start to cry, though no one knows why. Steels tremble, blood seeps from crevices where letters can no longer be read, and in Tunguska, the forest begins to reveal new circles, where trees do not grow, the soil does not regrow, and time slows down. Animals that stray into it do not return. There is only the sound of the wind, more and more human. As the night covered Tunguska with a coal-colored mist, Vera left the camp. The blind man did not follow. He sat like a stone statue by the fire, whispering something to the cold ashes in the language of the blind. Vera followed the light underground, a small crack, pale as the breath of a god, winding through the burnt forest, crossing the dry river, and stopping where the stone arched. It was the second gate, not made by human hands, but carved into the side of the rock in the time before speech. The gate did not open like a door, but absorbed the gaze. As Vera stepped forward, her vision broke like a cracked mirror. She saw herself from behind, from above, from below, 3 perspectives met at a single point. And there, a blue flame burned in her heart, like an eye opening from within. She stepped through. There was no thunder. No fire. Only absolute silence, a silence so ancient that it made the beating of the heart seem disrespectful. Inside was a hall of wind and memory. The walls were alive, they heaved like the skin of a sleeping man, carved with moving images, legless beings that flew on thought, children born of light, and a creature with only a throat, no mouth, no eyes, no bones. At the end of the hall, a stone altar, a blade shaped like a knife stuck into the ground. On it, a scroll of leather engraved with symbols, not to be read, but to be felt. When Vera touched it, she heard the voice of memory, but not with her ears. The fire of heaven is not a punishment. It is a reminder. We once forgot. Now we remember. And memory is the most powerful weapon. Vera nodded. She began to recarve the memory in her own blood, on the living stone. As she left the hall, the second gate closed by itself, the stone cracked, trees grew over it, as if no one had ever entered. But inside her, there was something that was no longer human, no longer named, no longer bounded. The blind man waited. You took a part of him back. He will take a part of you back. Vera smiled. I am no longer me. They left, this time to the east, where the snow cracked like glass when someone walked. Vera went first, the blind man followed. And one night they met shadowless creatures, shapes as black as thick smoke, without eyes, without mouths, only a dim aura of sadness. They did not attack. They passed by. But wherever they passed, memories disappeared, trees forgot how to grow, the earth forgot its damp smell, the wind forgot its howl. Vera raised her hand. They stopped. One of them came forward. It did not speak, it only touched her forehead. And then Vera remembered something that was not hers, the image of a red planet, burned, and a swarm of creatures like this one, exiled from their homeland after a fiery catastrophe. They are remnants. Not demons. Just someone else who lost their portal. Since that night, Vera has heard a third call. Not from the forest. Not from the sky. But from beneath her feet, echoing through the stone, through the blood, through the dream. A third portal awaits, but it is not in space. It is hidden in the will. The blind man said, you will die. But not in body. Vera only smiled. I died once, on the day the moon turned red. To the south, the melting ice revealed a tower buried deep in the earth, not reaching up to the sky but going down as deep as the roots of the universe. Inside, the skeletons of ancient shamans sat as if on guard, and on their foreheads, engraved with the same symbol Vera had seen in the stone hall, she was about to enter the third gate, the place where no one had ever returned, and where the true name of the fire of heaven would be called for the first time in 100,000 years of slumber. Vera entered the tower with a soundless step, as if the wind had learned to walk without stirring the grass. The blind man did not follow. He stood outside, his face turned toward the sky, where a black dot like an evil eye was growing in the moon. The heavy stone door closed behind her. Inside, there was no path, only falling. She did not feel the ground, did not feel her body. There was only the sound of a beat, not her heart, but the tower itself, and then she hit the ground, if ground was the word for that place. A circular hall of non-reflective matter, where gravity shifted every time she closed her eyes. Around it were 12 stone pedestals, each shaped like an ancient creature, a wingless dragon. A three-faced man, a two-headed snake, and a hollow man, his heart hanging from his skin. In the middle, a slowly rotating crystal, and within it, a black, living flame, whispering with light. The fire spoke, not in sound, but in thought, I am not from the sky. I am the memory of the world itself, banished by it. I am the hidden consequence, the true name of the forgotten. Vera trembled. She asked, with her mind, what do you want from me? Nothing. But you wanted to remember. A gust of air entered the chambers of her heart, opening up memories that had never lived, the image of the first man who cried in the night because he dreamed of something that had never existed. Of a God who was banished because he understood too well the structure of hope, and of a fire that once warmed the soul, but was locked away because it made the weak strong. I am the fire of heaven, but my name cannot be pronounced in human language. And so Vera accepted that name to be engraved on her soul. Not in words, but in images, in tones, in breaths, becoming the living pronunciation of a name older than all languages. Above the ground, the blind man wept. He could not speak, but his hands traced the double helix in the air, a symbol of a call from the end of time. The sky cracked. Not the real sky, but the membrane of the world's memory, which wraps around reality like skin around flesh. And from that crack, colorless light poured down. When the ritual was complete, the crystal shattered, and black fire flew into Vera's chest. But it did not burn. It mingled with her blood, making her the one who bore the mark, the one who was called without a voice, the one who lived but carried the first death of the universe. The stone hall cracked. The 12 altars bellowed deep, like bells from the abyss. Vera stepped out of the tower, her eyes no longer black, but a fire never seen before. Not blue, not yellow, not red, but everything. On her forehead was a moving symbol, unable to remain still, not in paintings, not in mirrors, not in memory. The blind man bowed his head. The true name has taken shape. The world will begin again, or end, in your mouth. Vera was silent, the wind stopped blowing. Everywhere, the forgotten gates began to tremble. Under the desert, in the ocean, in the bones of dead whales, and in the gazes of orphans, symbols began to appear. Rules hidden in the fabric of reality were emerging, shaken by the return of the true name. The fire of heaven whispered to Vera, now, either you open the gate, or the world will open you. Vera walked without a trace, without a shadow. No one saw her, but everything that lived knew she had passed. Trees bent, rivers changed course, and birds stopped singing. The eyes of fire had no name, and reality shifted a notch every time she glanced at them. The blind man was no longer with her. He had become a dark voice in her head, no instructions, no commands, only warnings with broken breaths. She came to a lake with no source, no bottom, just a flat mirror, reflecting not her but what she dared not remember. In it was the image of little Vera, running in the snow with a fawn beside her, smiling as if the sky would explode. The memory distorted, the lake trembled, and a hand of fire rose from the water, inviting her, enter. The past is the key. Not to go back, but to break the door. Vera stepped into it, and instead of sinking, she fell. The water splashed into 1,000 doors, and she passed through one of them, a door to the place where time was dying. There, all the clocks were broken, the sun hung still on a cliff, and darkness flowed back to its source. She met a version of herself, but without skin, just bones wrapped in light. I am you if you choose not to. Vera asked, if you choose nothing. Not choosing to be named. Not choosing to know. Not choosing to hurt. Vera did not answer. She walked past the being, hearing the sound of bones breaking like ice. And as she walked, the being dissolved into 1,000 fragments of words, drifting behind her. becoming scriptures for worlds without language. When she returned to the lake, the sky had changed. The stars were no longer in place, the moon had shrunk like a worn silver coin, and the earth seemed to be gasping for breath. In the distance, a pillar of cracked light rose into the sky, from the very heart of the old explosion. It was the fourth gate, nowhere, but everywhere anyone had ever seen fire. As Vera approached, she saw misty spirits gathered around the pillar of light. They had no clear shape, but were filled with pain, like souls that could not die because they had never lived fully. One of them came forward, without speaking, but placed in Vera's hand a small black stone, smooth as ash, heavy as sin. Vera's fingers tightened around the stone, and all sound disappeared. In the silence, a voice from the world itself spoke, low, slow, wordless, voiceless. The eye is open, but the vision is still hidden. To see, you must become the unclosed eye. Then a black lightning bolt tore through the air, carrying not electricity but the memory of heavenly fire, and struck her directly. Vera did not fall. Her body glowed like a new moon, and on her forehead the moving symbol broke into three, then rejoined, this time, with a first sound, the echo of a name never spoken. Further away, at the North Pole, the ice pillars collapsed one by one, as if kneeling. Underground, the eyes of the forgotten entity were opening. Not with pupils, but with memories sealed in ancient animal bones, in untouched stones, in fires no one dared to burn, and those eyes were looking at Vera. At the northernmost point, where the wind had ceased and the ice had turned to granite, Vera stood in the middle of a silent white plain. On the ground, spirals were etched with fire, as if someone had written in the earth with a burning finger. Above, an amber light opened in the clouds, not the sun, but the gaze of a waking being. Vera did not move. She sat down, placing the black stone in the center of her chest, right where her heart was slowing, as if listening to the breathing of something larger than herself. She spoke, but without a sound. If I am an eye, then see. If I am a tongue, then call. If I am a gate, then open. Immediately, the earth beneath her melted like wax. And from the depths of the earth a throatless roar rose, causing the sky to change color 3 times in succession, blue, blood, then ash-gray. The structure rose from the ice, not a tower, not a temple, but the gigantic skeleton of a creature whose name had never been known, taller than the mountains, with wings of light and thousands of eyes opening at every joint. From the center of the creature's chest, the fire of heaven emerged, an unstable, ever-changing entity, sometimes a radiant goddess, sometimes an eyeless child, sometimes a pack of howling wolves in the wind. Vera looked at the being, not through her eyes, but through herself. All her layers of being fell apart, the blacksmith's daughter, the survivor of the explosion, the bearer of memories. All vanished, leaving only a recognizable void, and in that empty moment, she remembered the true name of the fire of heaven, not in words, not in images, but in the first breath of the universe. As she exhaled, the name rose into the sky, the fire of heaven roared one last time. Its wings spread, touching the clouds, and each bright feather became a portal, breaking open to places no one had ever set foot, worlds denied, time unborn, life forgotten. And then, it knelt before Vera. Not to worship, but to return the right to the name that humanity had lost, the hand of the flame touched her forehead, and the world split in two, part of it returns, closes, becomes the same, the sky is blue, the forest grows, the snow falls, the rest, no one knows. Maybe it continues, drifting between the cracks of reality, carrying with it the souls who remembered, who saw, and who said what should not be said. In Tunguska, the earth is quiet. No more burning, no more roaring. But if one is quiet enough, and brave enough to sit long enough, one can hear, deep underground, a steady, ancient breathing that has never stopped. Years passed. No one could remember the day when the moon stopped being red, the day when the forest grew back without a single branch missing, or the day when the wind began to sing a faint song like from a fairy tale. All we knew was that, after the night when the sky was torn like an old animal's skin, something had changed, and though no one called out a name, everyone fell silent just as the night became too quiet. In the wastelands near Tunguska, children are born who never dream, not because they lack imagination, but because their dreams have become portals. Their eyes often look far away, into nothing, and when asked, they only say, "Someone is watching from behind the sky." Their parents just smile, worried, and then teach their children to weave nets, set traps, and live as usual. At the place where the center of the explosion was, a flower-shaped depression appeared. No one dug it, no one built it. No trees grow there, but white butterflies gather. They circle, restless, as if guarding something sleeping. Or listening. The old Evenkis dare not go there. They build a circle of stones around it, and call the area by a new name, the mouth of the first name. Further, in a city not marked on the map, there is a mirror room that reflects nothing but the moment when people forget their names. In that room, a woman with silver hair and deep eyes sat writing in black ink on white paper, repeating an illegible symbol. Who she was, no one knew. All that was known was that every time she looked up, time in the room skipped a beat. And one cold rainy night, a traveler wandered near the edge of Tunguska. He knew nothing, heard nothing, just passed by like many others looking for peace. As he slept under a tree, he dreamed of a black flame whispering in a girl's voice, "You did not call me, but I still came. You do not remember me, but I have never forgotten you." In the morning, he felt empty inside, as light as ash. And after that, for the rest of his life, he did not dream again. In another layer of reality, where the light was broken like cracked enamel, Vera was still there. Not old, not young, no longer human, not quite a god. She sat in a skyless field, drawing with her gaze on every grain of dust. Every time she called the true name of the fire of heaven, a certain world trembled. Not out of fear, but out of longing, and so, everything ended, or began. No one spoke of the Tunguska explosion as a mystery anymore. Because those who know, have understood that what happens does not need a reason, it only needs one person to remember, one person to open their eyes, and one name that has been hidden for too long.